guys, and welcome back to Architectural Technology. Last time we were thinking about this image, which is our test image, and we just wanted to look at what we need to improve on. But generally, most of the things are okay. I still need to work on the focal angle because it's not aligning quite well with the focal angle of the camera that I was using. Basically, it was a phone camera for Galaxy A51, and I didn't really set up anything. I just took the pictures straight by the standard settings. But as I looked at this a bit closer, I was starting to like what I was seeing. Of course, it needs a lot more work because if you were to zoom in right now, you would see I'll need to refine a lot of these edges to make sure nothing looks off, and also create a very easy way to blend these two in terms of this pole coming out there, and that really showing that even the pixel formations are quite different. But overall, it looks a little bit better. I'm starting to see what I'll need to do when I'm rendering my final image when I'm coming here to edit. But what I really did like is I ended up cropping it to this part because it looks a little bit better in this portion and a little more real. And having realistic cars like this and realistic roads with realistic damage really brings it into an African setting, into the context where this building is. And I realized that if I even crop it a bit further, the realism is even better. Leave it like that, make it a narrow image, and we have an interesting look there. So that's generally what I was seeing there, because the most important thing to always get correct are the textures first and foremost, your bumps and everything, and then make sure the colors really match what in terms of the hues, the saturations. Make sure everything really matches what you have on site, because like for this image, I had to increase the brightness 2 times so that it finally blends in with everything that's on site, because this is the image. If you click on it, you see it's named brightness because I merged the brightness layer. Basically, I had to increase the brightness with I increased the brightness and then merged it with the original image. And then I had initially raised the brightness for both the original picture of the site and then the rendered image. Then I further increased the brightness for this image to make sure at least their exposure values or the their brightness values, as I'm saying, are quite similar, at least at the same set of tones, where the reds seem to match the reds on site and around, where the whites seem to match the whites of the real stuff around, where the grays seem to blend in with the grays that are around. And of course, you'll need to work a bit more on the glass if this is see-through and all that stuff. But since this is not my final image, at this point, I'm okay. I've picked up everything that I need to work on, and I've seen that the building would match in quite perfectly with what I want to do. But above that, the most important thing to always take note of is the angle of the sun, because I took a little bit of time trying to figure it out on Lumion, and making sure you see the shadows are casting a bit. It's the sun is sort of just overhead, but in towards what can I say? If you're looking at this image, this video from this way, it's towards the right, towards your right hand, and then so hence it's creating a little bit of a shadow. It's above head but tilted towards the right, and it's creating a little bit of a shadow which is sort of reflected there, and you sort of get to see in those parts. But overall, it's just shining on every surface, or being reflected on every surface you can see. Other than that, so you need to be careful with things like that, because that is what will make your image on or off. Like this one I've been working on currently, there's this I created another test image for another angle to see how I would work. I'll need to work. So this was the angle. The full image is here. This is the full image. So the rendered test image, this is the rendered test image. If I can zoom in. it's showing all the different apartments just meshing up together as very large boxes. Same thing, you'll need to focus on the focal length, angle of the sun, make sure your hues and textures, your shadows and lights are well clear. And then I started cropping it out, quickly made a crop out of it. After I cropped it out, I then brought it in to the original image, which it is here. Then I had to crop out some parts. Then I had to crop out for the grass. I didn't go any further, and then I didn't like this crop. It was too narrow. It didn't show any sense of a context. Then I made another one where instead of cropping it as a narrow one, it becomes more square and box-like, and context is a bit more revealed. And then the building sort of comes into that. When you look at this one, you can tell something is off. It's not too far off from working, but the biggest thing that you can tell if that this thing is off is the fact that the shadows that are casting mean the angle of the sun has gone a bit lower. The sun is about to set, and but this building is not casting any shadow on adjacent buildings, and that means you need to start drawing and really doing all of that in Photoshop and making sure those shadows are cast. I'll take you through all of that in a coming series of tutorials, and we'll look at how to start adding people and casting shadows and doing all those things to just make sure this whole thing would look a little bit more different. But for today, this is all I just wanted to show you. So be careful when rendering. Just try and make sure that the angle of or the positioning of the sun, the azimuth, the longitudinal or the latitude of the sun and azimuth, make sure that the textures or tones come out clearly. Because if you can see here, I don't know if it's clear, uh, the tones here and the tones here and the tones there are a bit different, even though all of this is the same texture and the same surface. So there was a danger whereby if I let the sun come in such an angle where it shines, every surface is shining brightly, it might be difficult to tell what exactly is going on. So I had to manipulate the way the light is being cast to make sure that there's variations of tones in different areas, so that there's that sense of a contrast, and so someone can be able to tell to an extent what's going on, but also play around with the visual illusion for them not to pick up on the fact that to not pick up easily that this is a rendering. Of course, right now it's very clear it's a rendering, and most of you who are AT people will know this. But once I've played around with the tones from the base render, it allows me when I come into Photoshop to easily start working here, adding people and doing things and really manipulating this to have a final good image, which with time we will arrive at.
Nightmares creep while you and me repeat this bittersweet.